Hello my lovelies, and welcome to this video. As you can see, I'm back home, yay, after a really overwhelming and just amazing trip to Israel, to all up and down the country. There's definitely some places I still want to go back and see, but we just saw so much, and it was a very interesting trip and a very informative experience, and definitely very different to your average sort of tourist experience as well. Very true representation of what life is like there, and yeah, it's just something I'm going to keep in my heart forever. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about the consequences of traveling. For me personally, I've got very dry skin anyway, at the best of times, and being on a plane caused a really bad breakout on the way there, and then 10-11 days later coming back, another really bad breakout on top of the one I already had. So how do we deal with that? And how do we do it naturally? How do we do it without putting any medication or toxins or anything like that on? So I'm going to show you today a new product that I haven't used on the channel yet, that I've been trying behind the scenes. I only just received it when I came back. So I've been using it for a few days and I am absolutely loving it. So I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you how I use it to conceal and cover up. So on my packing up my travel bag video, I spoke about this little concoction here, which is a beautiful mixture of the Kids Sense lotion, which is my beautiful moisturizer, and some dry skin serum, which is a really beautiful intense oil. Now, while I was actually overseas, it was working fantastically to control the initial breakout and also to really moisturize the skin on a daily basis. It was just perfect. I think anything oilier would have been too heavy, but the breakout hadn't fully recovered yet, and exposing it again to airplanes and airports was not great. So what I'm going to do to start with, take my little cat paw applicator here and just really beautifully moisturize. Now, it's not the beginning of the day at this point. I have already moisturized and put sunscreen on this morning. This is already a second layer, and it's only going where the breakout is. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just down there. It's pretty bad and it's pretty painful. So let's get this nice and moisturized. I'm also going to put a really thin layer of the same moisturizer everywhere where makeup's going today, because I really want to get the coverage today. I don't want a sheer coverage. I want a really nice medium to full coverage today. If you want to do a concealer type effect, spot coverage, what you can actually do is take a small amount of this moisturizer and put a little bit of loose powder in there, and it will create a concealer. Beautiful powder I've been using is the gorgeous Savvy Minerals. Just beautiful product. It's so incredibly natural. There's no nasties in there at all. It's by Young Living, which you guys all know I'm absolutely obsessed with. The contents of this is so simple, very straightforward, very transparent on what goes in there. None of those silly numbers and long names which you can Google forever what they are, and you can never truly know what you may or might not be creating on your body, on your skin. I just love the transparency of this company. That's my biggest thing that I'm impressed with here. There are other companies that do fairly natural products or very minimal toxins in their products, and I've discussed them on this channel before, but you just love to have something that's like, things need to be very simple, I think, especially if we're putting it in our body or on our skin. So that's where I'm really excited about this. So this is a 5-gram container. It's quite small, but it's jam-packed. There's no extra space in there. I love it when they make you a jar this big, but they only fill it up a third of the way. That's another thing I hate about some of the cosmetics in this world. You get like a proper little holy kind of thing. That's pretty standard. And what I'm going to do is take a small brush, maybe something like that, it's a small kabuki, and just tap it onto the back of my hand where I've put moisturizer. Then I'm going to dip it in, mix it all up. So you get this nice wet, thick kind of powder finish. I'm just going to swirl it on gently where the breakout is. So already, I don't know if you can tell, but already that intense redness has died down. I really like using the paw foot kind of shaped applicators for this sort of thing. This is a nice flat, dense brush, but it's quite soft. So I'm going to use this for my concealer brush today, and I'm just going to repeat that process I just did again. So a tiny bit of moisturizer and a bit of the color. I'm just going to spot correct anything that's still visible. Pretty happy with the color neutralization here. The other thing we're going to try, just for a bit of contrast, is on this little breakout here, just that one there. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to use a product you've seen before. Now you guys already all know that this is what I use to make my eyeshadows stay. So I'm going to use the same principle here today. It's gotten a little bit dirty from its very strong traveling habits that it's developed. So like always, I'm just going to spray in there. I'm just going to get another one of these. Same kind of brush. I've got a few. So dip it in, make it slightly wet, and dip into the powder. And we're going to cover this breakout now. Okay, and voila. So because it's really hard for you guys to see with the angle and where the breakout is, I'm going to take a photo and insert it here for you so you can see how well that's worked to cover it up. So using just moisturizer with the oil on this side and then just the Savvy Minerals spray on this side. Now the reason I did it differently on both sides is just to compare the products, but also there's a real good reason for why you want to use moisturizer and not necessarily just the spray. And that is because the moisturizer is going to be treating the skin while it's also being a concealer. Whereas the spray, even though it's full of really good stuff, there's nothing necessarily specific in there that's treating the breakout. And so because this is a very small and old breakout, I think the spray is plenty. It would also work to provide coverage on a big, fresh breakout, but this is full of good stuff. It's treating the dry skin, which is exactly what happens before I break out. I get these cracks and flakes on the skin first, and then it becomes like a cyst. So that's just addressing that problem. And then I'm also putting beautiful oils on it to really nourish the skin and help it heal. Next, I'm going to use a little spongy thing like that. It's got a sort of velvety finish on top. Very similar sort of like polar fleece kind of feel to it. And inside it's got like a little sponge, a bit of foam inside. So these things I found have been really, really amazing for coverage. So I'm only going to need a tiny little bit, something like that. And you remember our skin's nice and moisturized. The moisturizer is completely absorbed now. So I'm only going to need the tiniest little bit, and I'm just going to cover everything evenly. For highlighting, I'm just going to put another layer on. I'm going to just bend this little sponge like into a little V and really concentrate it into the little areas where I want it to be really, really bright. Okay, and there you go. So I would call this slightly more than medium coverage. I've got a very, very natural look. I've got complete neutralization of all the redness and in the breakouts. Normally to achieve this kind of level of neutralization, I would have to have put a color corrector on. Clearly no color corrector used here. And both those little tricks worked of using a setting spray, just like we do for the eye makeup, or using a moisturizer where you get the same kind of effect, but you also get the nourishment. So next I'm going to go back into my Nutrimetics products for my bronzing and highlighting. Again, these products are pretty neutral in terms of toxicity. Not as perfect as the Savvy Minerals, which you're basically getting pigment. That's pretty much all that's in there, and a little bit of that bark extract, which I'm not actually entirely sure what it does, but I hope to find out. You know, you're not getting anything extra in there, whereas these guys have a little bit of, I think, talc. I feel a lot more comfortable using a product like this now because I know it's going to give me the makeup effect I want, and I've got a nice protective layer that doesn't have any of the nasties in there. So I can very comfortably apply this and know that I'm going to get a beautiful, fairly neutral product. And I'm also protected because I've got several layers of beautiful moisturizer, sunscreen, and foundation on that's already nourishing and protecting my skin. So I'm just going to fill up my little brush here and go in and use this as both a contour and a bronzer today. So building it up a little bit and then swelling it up. I'm intentionally staying away from the breakout with the bronzer because I don't want the little sparkly pigments to irritate the skin, because they can definitely do that. Next, I'm going to take just a small eyeshadow brush, something like this, something with a fairly flat finish, and I'm going to use the bronzer again, only because it's not that shiny, this bronzer. If you've got a very shiny bronzer, probably don't do this, but I'm going to use this for a contour for the nose and a little bit more to define that cheek. I'm pretty happy with that so far, and as you can see, it's not very shiny at all. The other thing you may have noticed is how little of the bronzer I had to use because of that base. Again, completely attracted to the skin. It doesn't need a lot of product. It doesn't need a lot of blending. It's just really, really smoothly going on because we worked really, really well on the canvas. Just going to grab a detailed face brush and go in with a bit of highlight. So a little bit different today in that I left the house already this morning, so I just did some eyeliner, mascara, and moisturizer. That's all I had on when I started this video with you guys. So I'm just going to fix up my eyebrows a little bit and maybe put a little bit more color onto my eyes, and I'll take you along as I do that. Just going to finish off this look with a bit of a lip liner and lipstick, and then we'll be all done. Okay, and that is the look. Very, very excited about it. It's turned out really, really beautiful and natural. Not too much effort, not too much mucking around. Wasn't too long of a process either. And I know that I'm not putting terrible toxins on my skin. So there are a few little things that I would like to eventually exclude completely. But the thing about natural makeup is it's expensive. It's as simple as that. You do make it last a long way because you don't need much. It's basically just pigment. So you use probably, I'd say, a tenth of something like this versus something like this. Literally look at the size difference, and you're probably going to end up using it up in the same amount of time. And I'll report back if that isn't the case, but so far I'm noticing that to use a normal loose powder, I would have to have used, I'd say, at least 5 to 10 times more, because you just keep on reapplying, it goes everywhere, it just doesn't kind of attract to your skin properly. It moves a little bit more, even though that's a really good Nutrimetics one. I still find it moves. So I don't like to use loose powders as a result. I prefer pressed. But today I've just shown you that the Savvy Minerals is amazing. And it's safe. So that is the nicest part of all. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me, my lovelies. I hope that I've shown you something useful. You know, we all get the 1 or 2 pimples occasionally, or a little bit of something that we'd like to cover up. I've had the beautiful luck of having these giant breakouts occasionally, and they take ages to go away, but that's just how my skin is, and it's definitely been 1,000 times better having moved away from all the toxins and all the really nasty products. Cutting out SLS has been the biggest change, I have to be honest. Please check out my Instagram page if you haven't done so already. There's a lot of photos up there from my trip and different looks and different tickles and things like that up there. So I really love you to come along over to the Instagram page to see all of those. If you'd like to and you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. That would be amazing to see that you've come along. If you'd like to, you can leave me a comment either here or on the Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. It's always exciting to hear about your opinion and what you thought of the video, and just that you've come along so I can see who it is that's watching. It's always very, very, very nice. And if you did like it, hit the thumbs up as well, so that I know to make more content a bit like this one. I'm really looking forward to bringing you more natural products as I acquire them, and showing you how to use perhaps a more expensive product, but to make it last, to make it work, and to keep everything nice and toxin-free and safe. Have an amazing day, lovelies, wherever you are around the world, and I'll see you next time. Bye.